way?
I think so. I think we're live. Jeremy, are you seeing us in the, not yet? All right. Is Hunter taking up all the frame? No. Not yet. Cool. How are you?
Good. Thanks.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
We got a little bit bigger crowd every week, so it's nice to have some people here.
Yeah.
So we're going to have an abbreviated sales meeting today. We're going to fly through a few topics, but I think some valuable topics, and then we're going to roll into a race roundtable that I think will be really interesting. We have a moderator that you know, and you'll talk about a little bit later. But anyway, we'll dive right in. So I just sent out a Mindset Monday, or really a Mindset Tuesday, a day late this morning, but it's about contempt. I'd encourage you to read it or watch it. I think it was helpful to do a little research on that, and really how I think contempt is something that you hear about in our maybe marital or love relationships, but I think it's something that can show up in our work relationships with our clients as well. So a few tidbits about that, but this is a quote that I found: "Contempt is the weapon of the weak and a defense against one's own despised and unwanted feelings." So maybe when you're feeling bad about somebody else, you might just be feeling bad about yourself. So just saying. On that note, what are you grateful for? Just to roll right in with a positive message.
I am grateful for your Mindset Mondays, Zach, or Tuesdays, and I just want to say, I felt bad last week. I think there were 9 views by the sales meeting.
There were a lot after that.
But there were a lot. You really shamed some people into watching it. It was nice work.
It was good. I did get an email from Hunter that said, "Great Mindset Monday. Didn't watch it, but loved the message and the topic."
No, that's not exactly what I said. I said, "Thank you for doing this." I haven't watched it yet, and then I did go back and watch it, and it was on point, and I really appreciate you being vulnerable and putting that out there. I mean, it's 9 minutes of you talking. That's a lot.
It was a lot. So anyway, we'll see. But so we got a little bit of education info. So I'm gonna get a little bit closer, because we've switched things up today, as you noticed. Because with our roundtable, we're not actually going to do a full roundtable because just the setup and situation, but we've got this little stage here. So with our education, I have to get a little closer to see. So Wednesday, we've got a Thrive open chat. There is a Tyler, I'm not sure if you're having an East sales meeting. There's a recurring East sales meeting on the calendar, but chime in with your folks if you're going to have that. There's also a Wind Down Wednesdays, all village happy hour over Zoom from 4 to 5:30 on Wednesday, which will be fun. And then there is a Transaction Desk class with Brent Cooper on Thursday. And then rolling into, obviously, July 4th. What's our schedule that week? We're going to be closed on, because July 4th is on a Saturday.
Yeah, so we're closed Friday the 3rd.
So office is closed on Friday, and then July 4th is on a Saturday, and then we'll have there's some more education that I'm going to stop trying to read by leaning over because I can't see it. So the next Jumpstart is July 15th, 16th, 17th, and 20th. That's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Monday. So if you have not participated in Jumpstart, even if you're an experienced agent, it's a really valuable tool, and we've got a lot of good stuff there. It's been revamped with a lot of really good content. So Hunter,
all right,
take it away.
So abbreviated Conley Corner this morning. What do I do?
Click the left. There
all right. So hot off the presses, just yesterday afternoon, the existing home sales data was reported, and sales dropped 9.7% in May, which is a large drop. It's down 26.6% year over year, so from last May. So just a huge fall-off, but not unexpected. And as you notice on the slide, the leading indicators looking forward are all really positive. So we came off of the lockdown. Pendings in April, we reported a few weeks ago, were way down. So it's natural that closings in May are going to be down. And what we've seen over the last month is that new mortgage originations are way up.
Good leading indicator.
Like record highs there, and then pendings have also rebounded. So economists are arguing and saying that it looks like the homeowners or the people, the buyers that were in the market really just did not get out of the market. They just delayed what they were doing, and they're picking back up where they left off before the lockdown.
What are y'all seeing out there? We got some folks out here. Are y'all seeing things picking up a little bit more? Yeah? I've got a few of you who are going to chime in with, there's been a lot of really cool successes out there lately, so a few of y'all are going to step in and talk about those.
The other thing I want to touch on today is property taxes. So we've talked about this over the last few weeks. The mayor had submitted a budget plan to the council about a month ago and asking for a 32% property tax increase. And so the council took that, came up with their own plan, which the mayor accepted, and it's actually a 34% property tax increase. And so that is a big number, and so there's been a lot of anxiety around this. Alan Koenig said that sucking sound you'll be hearing in the coming months is the mass exodus of Davidson County residents moving to Sumner, Wilson, Rutherford, Williamson-Dixon, Cheatham, and Robertson counties. Now I think Alan.
That sounds like one of those like super dramatic headlines.
Yeah, I think Alan's being overly dramatic. He also could, you see from the slide, could work on his spelling of Rutherford and Dixon counties. So
you did get Cheatham right, which is
Cheatham's a tough one. Yeah. Let's see. I think I went the wrong way.
It's yeah. There we go.
All right. So, but just want to spend a couple minutes breaking down property taxes in case this is just a refresher. Most of you probably know this already, but you've got four components to the property tax equation. One is the classification of the property, right? So for us, it's really residential or commercial. Residential, commercial, and industrial. Two, you've got the appraised value of the property. So what is the property worth?
Which a real estate appraisal is different than a tax appraisal.
Those are two different things, but they're kind of based on the same, they're trying to get to the same number. Mm-hmm. They just do it in different ways, and there's some rules around how the government has to do it that may be different from the way a mortgage company has to do it. But you're trying to get the value of the property. And then third is the assessed value, and that's calculated by multiplying the appraised value by a assessment ratio, which is driven by the classification of the property. So as you can see here, for 99% of our work, it's residential, and so that's a 25% assessment ratio. So, and then the fourth thing is actually the actual tax rate, sometimes called the mill rate, you might hear that. And so what Nashville just adjusted was the tax rate. So everything else in those other four components, those other three components stayed the same. We just adjusted Metro the tax rate.
So before, let's say the tax rate, and it wasn't exactly 4%, but let's say it was about 4% on a $100,000 property. That's $4,000, but really you're taking 25% of that. Mm-hmm. So it's 25% of 4%, so it's like 1% of 100,000. So that tax rate has gone up, but these percentages stay the same.
Correct, exactly. And so if you look at an example here, you've got a $250,000 property, and the current tax. Now, just to complicate matters a little more, there's two main tax rates in Nashville. There's the GSD and the USD. So the GSD is like the general services, kind of maybe outside the USD, which is the urban services district.
So urban service, you get trash pickup.
Trash pickup.
There's also, just to complicate things more, anybody live in the Gulch? Downtown, right? You also have the GBID, Gulch Business Improvement District.
So you got a little tax on top of that.
Little things like that.
But for our purposes, the two main ones that you'll be dealing with in Davidson County are the GSD and the USD.
And so the USD is a little more expensive because you get more services.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so we're just dealing with the GSD in this example. You take the appraised value is $250,000, right? $250,000, and then you apply the tax rate, or you apply the assessment ratio times the appraised value. So 250 times 25%, that's 62.5.
Got it.
And then you multiply it by the tax rate, which is 3.788%. And you multiply that and you get 2,367. That's the new taxes that you'll pay in Davidson County for 2020.
That's the new taxes.
That's the new taxes. That's the new rate. You can do this math yourself, or At this link here, you've got a property tax calculator. You plug in the property and the appraised value, and it'll just calculate it itself and eliminate any
You can get to
potential.
this from national.gov. It's a different
Yes,
site. It's like the
national.gov
PAD,
basically,
CT,
but I put the
whatever.
link in, and so
We'll send that out.
basically, how does this compare to last year? So taxes on that same $250,000 would have been $1,722 per year. It's now $2,367 per year. So a $645 difference over the course of 12 months, or $54 a month difference. If you look at Williamson County, so that the giant sucking sound that was that guy mentioned in his tweet, it is a pretty large difference between some of the outlying counties and what we pay in Metro. So the same $250,000 property for Williamson County would pay about $1,435, which means that Davidson County taxes are about 58% higher currently than Williamson County. So part of the reason we're in this situation is you can see that our tax rate isn't that high. So we fluctuated in past years. 2012, it was over 4%, and there's a state law that requires anytime you do a reassessment, which happens every 4 years. Our last reassessment was in 2017. So go through, reassess all the properties, 2017. Well, there's a state law, so obviously in 2017, all the property values were way up. It had been a terrific,
Since 2013, yeah.
since 2013, it had been a terrific 4 years of Nashville. So that pushes all this appraised value up. Yet there's a state law that says any reappraisal has to be revenue neutral. So we had to turn around and reduce our taxes in 2017. They were 2.755, or they were 3.9. So they're even above where we are now, and we had to reduce them to 2.755 in order to stay revenue neutral because the appraised value of the properties in Nashville went so high. So it's kind of a
So a lot of people's actually, like my taxes actually went down.
Mine did too.
Interestingly, in a lot of the more established neighborhoods, because they take, it was like, let's say it was a 35% across the board appreciation over those 4 years, the more neighborhoods maybe where there was a lot of new construction, right, where there was maybe a $200,000 house torn down and a $500,000 house put in its place, you had a lot of those neighborhoods actually went up higher, and so to equalize it, those neighborhoods got an increase in taxes and more established neighborhoods got reduced.
And some of you may, longtime Nashvillians, may be able to help me on this, but I believe what should have happened in 2017 as a result of this, we would have come out with a tax increase to, because we needed more revenue.
The
There's
rate
a
should
lot
have
of
changed.
services, more people moving here, schools, like we needed this to kind of fund the city, and the rate had gone down. We needed to do a tax increase, but instead you had Mayor Barry, you had the transit taxes that were proposed for that. So we kind of missed that year, and then she left office. Immediately David Briley's in a runoff the next year. You don't want to go into the runoff as the guy who just raised everybody's taxes. And so we've kind of kicked the can for the last 3 years, and now we're having to eat a much larger increase than if we just kind of gradually.
So what's your elevator pitch if you're like, if somebody's saying to an agent, hey, what, and y'all chime in too, hey, what's the deal with this? Man, these taxes, I'm so ticked off. These taxes are going up. This is ridiculous. Like, what do you say?
It's way cheaper than any other big city in the state.
Phil says it's cheaper than any other big city in the state.
Yeah, Memphis is $7.75. And have $7.75, what do we, $4 or something
Yeah.
like that. And our peer cities, Boston or Charlotte, we're cheaper than them too. So it's just bullshit.
So if you look at Phil says it's just BS, just do it. So Kate, what do you have?
So repeat, just before we do that,
So-
repeat what he just said.
So
just in case.
a great point. So you can hear it. So Phil said we're less expensive than any other city in Tennessee.
Big
city in
state.
Tennessee, right?
Memphis is much
And then when you
higher.
look at our peer cities, we're now on a more equal plane to peer cities like, and I don't have the exact data in front of me, but Charlotte, St. Louis, Austin, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, cities of similar size to us. But we were significantly lower, and maybe our property values were a little bit higher, so you paid more on a dollar per dollar tax basis, but as terms of the rate, it was a little bit lower. So again, we're not able to change the situation, so I think trying to explain it and understand it and give clarity on the situation is helpful.
Okay.
Okay, so I had a new buyer who like freaked out when this happened overnight. He said, no, I just need to pay 34% more on our house.
So Kate's thinking she's got a new buyer who is not under contract yet. She was looking.
Yeah, and this happened, and so, she never paid any property taxes. So I just did an example for her.
Yeah.
This house, and she saw how little it moved.
So so that's interesting. She's a first-time home buyer. She hears 35%. Immediately, she just sort of reactively says, oh my gosh, that's 35% more mortgage payment or 35% higher. That's like, whew, that's a lot, right? But when you sat down, maybe got on the website, did the calculation for her, and showed her that, all right, it's $54 a month or $30 a month, and yeah, nobody wants to pay that if they don't have to, but at the end of the day, that sort of gives clarity to the situation. So
This would all be great information to kind of get out in front of your clients and prospects. I talked to Wendy yesterday, but she's planning on kind of proactively going to her clients and saying like, hey, here's where you are, here's what this means moving forward, and just a chance to kind of be that professional that people need during this time. So
I think it's important to realize that there's probably not a person in this room or listening right now who can tell you what their property taxes are.
it's true.
she said there's not a person in this room or who's listening who can tell you exactly what their property taxes are, and that's probably right. So we can kind of complain about it, but you got to understand where you are to know where you're going to.
Yeah. So I'm going to send my clients a copy of their tax record and show them what their current property taxes are and what their appraised value, their tax appraisal value is, and then direct them to the website where they can plug in that appraisal value and see what their new tax rate is.
I love that. All right, so for those to hear, Wendy's going to send her clients a copy of their current tax, on CRS, their current tax CRS sheet, so they can see what their current taxes are. They can see the rate, they can see the actual amount, and then they can see what their assessed value is. And then she's going to send them a link to that padctn.org site that I'll send out, that Hunter put where the calculator is located. So you can just plug it in, calculate USD, maybe give them a little explanation of whether they're in USD or GSD, or show them where that is on the sheet, in case people don't know that. But that's awesome.
In the absence of information, your mind always goes to the worst possible outcome.
Yeah.
In the absence of information, your mind often goes to the worst possible outcome. So I like that.
Future quote.
I like that. Front page of quote next week. So, all right. So real estate showings, same stuff, y'all. Showings are up. We're now about even. We've been up for the last month, higher than where we were the same on a day-to-day basis of last year, but we're kind of right about even where we are. So there's a lot of, I think mortgage applications are up, showings are up. Obviously, there's still some. I mean, we've got some properties, we've got some listings that are not showing that, in the ways that we thought they would. So look at that showing time data. Go to showingtime.com and look at, click on the reports, and there's a report, I forget the name of it, but it might be called a market showing report. But you can see in what price range, market wide, and break it down into $10,000 increments or $25,000 increments. It was interesting. I looked at this at a property yesterday, and $1 million to $1.25 million, there were 4 showings over the previous 30 days. And so 2 of them were on our listing, and our clients were like, well, gosh, what's going on? Well, there are only 4 in the whole market. But then you get below $1 million, and there were like 48 showings. So great opportunity for discussion, and we ended up just adjusting the price a little bit, and I think it's going to hopefully have a positive effect. So take a look at that. Mortgage rates, pretty much the same, 3% for a 30-year fix, 2.625% for a 15-year fix. The ARM did go down a little bit, which is probably good because nobody's been getting ARMs, I'm sure, unless you just had a specific reason you needed to get one. But they were 3.625 last week, and they're 3.5 this week. But 30-year fixed, still what? 3%, right? So 30-year fixed, 3%. All right, so Mindset Monday, I talked about this. Take a look at it. I sent out the link this morning. A guy named Dr. John Gottman, he wrote a book called The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work.
Is there a lot of contempt in your marriage?
No. I mean, my wife does tell me I roll my eyes, and I'm like, it's ridiculous. I do not at all. Whatever. But anyway, there are a few solutions that I talk about. One is have genuine interest in your clients, in them and not just their situation. try taking their side, be open to letting them influence you. Sometimes we can feel like, well, we're supposed to be the professional, we're supposed to have all the answers, and gosh, if they start giving us ideas, and especially if they're good, I start to feel scared because what if they're going to think that I'm not valuable and I'm not doing my job, and so then we can react, right? But a collaborative relationship always works better and comes to better results than just a one-sided relationship. And the third one is I thought this was fun, adopt a we against them attitude, right? So sometimes your clients are feeling upset and ticked off, and if you say, now we just need to calm down. Has anybody tried that?
That's why there's contempt in your marriage.
Oh,
probably.
yeah. Just calm down. Right. So the we against them, somebody told me this once, another agent, he said sometimes if you can match their anger and say, you know what, man, that does tick me off. Like that's complete BS that we got an offer this low, and match their anger, make sure you know, or they know that you're on their side, and then kind of walk them down with you, right? And say, all right, let's all cool off for a minute, because I need to as well, so we can have a clear mind and make some good decisions. So a few tips. So word on the street. We got a little word on the street topic segment. I've got a few people that are going to come up and give a 30, 60 second little positive word or words on what is happening on the street. So here's old Shane Talent right here.
Hey everybody, Shane here.
Oh.
Real quick, just wanted to share and touch base with everyone and just say, it's going to be good. Everything's going to be good, if not even better than it was before coronavirus. What I've seen working for me, and I don't know if it works for everybody, is just kind of taking the old the Ninja installation and showing up. Not physically as much as just mentally, emotionally, and touching your people, touching your clients, buyers, sellers, leads, whatever it is. Just simply reach out, touch. Everyone knows what you're going through. Everyone's going through the same thing. But if you're present and you're at the top of their mind, it seems to be working for me. And I think we can ride this wave and get through and get on the back end of it bigger and better than ever. And I can't wait to get back to what's the real new normal and keep crushing real estate with all of you. And I look forward to it. Thinking about you all. See ya.
One take, Shane. Good work. All right. Who else did I talk to? David Payne, you want to come up? Kate? Y'all just come up. You can come up one at a time. You double check and make sure we still got audio, because sometimes when I touch the microphone, I break it. You know what? I'm gonna click through it. As much as we love Shane, I'm gonna take. I'll take his face off. How about that?
Okay. So that's a tough act to follow. I don't take speed anymore, and so this is going to be a little lower key. I think a couple of things are working for me. One is if you price it right, they will come. My son got married in December, and he and his bride each owned a house. So they've now bought a house of their own, and so I put my daughter-in-law's house on the market, hit the active button at 5 o'clock on Friday. 36 hours later, we had a bound deal. In between, there was a lot of drama. We had dueling escalation clauses and people screaming, crying at me on the phone. It was nuts. But we priced it right at the middle point of the comps band, and it's in Inglewood, and we had 10 showings in 10 hours, and it was nuts. So if you price it right, they will come. Number two, what's working for me is I'm in year 6 of this business, and a number of people early on said if you can get there and stay there for 5 years, it will start to tick over. And so those of you who are newer at this, that is what is happening for me. It is finally ticking over. I'm getting my first repeat business. I'm getting referrals that are coming by surprise. And part of that is staying present, as Shane said, and working it. And I think finally I will say my cocktail videos on Facebook have kept me in front of my drinking friends. And those are the people I want to work with. And so I think it's going to come along.
So I haven't watched one. Go check it out. It's on. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
All right, Kate or Allison.
Okay. Ready? Okay.
Ready?
So I was thinking, what has been working that's different or a little bit newer? And so I always think you should regularly like Google yourself and see what comes up. But something different is I think there are a lot of first-time buyers, and recently I've gotten a lot of people relocating to Nashville who I think are shopping online for their realtors right now. They're at home. Like, they're coming to me, and I can tell they've read up about me. They're looking for me. They're finding me on all these random places. And so I realized what I enjoy and what gets me clients I like is that I probably have a lot of paragraphs about myself that are differentiating myself from other people in ways that attract people I enjoy. So let's say, for an example, my clients are going to match me politically probably 95% when they show up in the door. And I'm going to enjoy them. And they're going to have sought me out and been like, oh, I'm going to get along with her, and called me. So I was thinking, what's different is they're showing up with all this research because they're at home and they're bored and they're like, I'm moving to Nashville, let me pick a realtor. So if you want to like find clients you like, Google yourself and then write this long thing about yourself, but spread it out on some different places like realtor.org or whatever. And that's my advice.
That's great. I love it. You get those testimonials.
Yes.
Yeah, nice work. Yeah.
Where do I look? Okay, so something I used to be really good at the beginning of my career when I wasn't as busy was taking like pop by gifts by to people. I would do it like every 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Of course, that goes by the wayside when you get a little busy or you just start making excuses for yourself, which I also do. So the other day, I had a crazy day, but I just decided I had like a random 1-year anniversary to a closing in my calendar, and I was like, oh, I need to take them something, you know, and then you start like overthinking it, like, what do I get them? What do I take? So I just like grabbed a candle, texted my clients, went, took it by. They happened to be home, so they were like, just come on in, like, you know, whatever, we can hang out. Ended up staying like an hour, talked to them, loved their house. And then like 2 or 3 days later, the husband called me and sent me like 2 of probably what would be my biggest referrals I've ever had. So hopefully they make it to the closing table. But yeah, and it was in that like split second that I was like, I need to take them something. What do I take? You know, and I think a lot of times I just like overthink it and like don't do something, you know, or like it has to be this big thing. And anyways,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if
So
you're
you showed a little care,
Yeah.
you took a little time, gave them a little love,
yeah,
and you got your 2 biggest deals. 2 referrals?
2 referrals, yeah. And they're both from out of town, so I agree with Kate. I think that's happening a lot right now. But yeah, and if you're newer, do gifts as well, because that kind of helped me get everything started. Yeah.
Good work. That's awesome. Zach.
Oh, you can't see it yourself.
You look great. I'm gonna have to raise this up for you.
Thanks. I mean, my biggest thing that I've tried to do since we can't control the external things is really try to focus on the internal things for me. So that's been a lot of really trimming down my database and going back to the gift giving thing. I did a couple different runs. I started doing every Friday in April that I would go do about 5 to 10 bottles of wine and a roll of toilet paper from the thing. And ended up getting 2 referrals from that alone. But the second biggest thing I would say that I've done that I've seen some success in is really just staying in front of my clients. Instagram has been my platform that I use the most. And I had a lady call from Florida 2 weeks ago, and I had to ask her, how did you get my information? Where did you find me? And she actually said, from your Instagram post. So people are searching for Nashville still. Nashville's still in the news, so there's still a lot of drive to the city. And I think staying in front of our clients and just continuing to show updates and our clients know that we're still in the know, things are still going on. There's a lot of action still going on. And one other last thing I'll say is really for me, the last 2 homes that I got under contract, both of them were multiple bidding wars. And the last one that I won, it was simply because my clients and myself were just nice to the other agent. There was another agent in the bidding war that did a 2-hour response time. They said they were going to wait and push so they could get all the offers in. And they came back and said, well, now we'll just give you a 4-hour response time instead of 2 hours. And that actually pissed the listing agent off so bad that they went with our offer because she was able to meet us. I was able to talk her through what they were looking for. And we were somewhere about 25, 30 grand less than the other offer on $1 million offer. So as a reminder to just be nice to your other agents, and it can go a lot further than what you might think.
That's awesome, Zach. Thank you. Laura, is yours good?
Sure.
You got it?
If you want me to.
What you got?
Go fast. Am I supposed to be able to see myself?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Not sure about that. Okay, so my little ounce of excitement is water properties. So for those of you that know me and even Kirby Group, ones in my group, we thrive on selling waterfront properties. That's just kind of a niche that we love. So we've been extra busy recently, and I contribute a lot of that to the fact that I think a lot of people are just simply seeking staycation and want to stay within close bounds of home. So whether it's Timms Ford Lake, Center Hill Lake, Rock Island, Old Hickory Lake, we've just kind of been bouncing around all the waters, which we love, and it is kind of that season anyway. So if you have water buyers, we've received, I guess, 3 referrals from other agents, both in-house and out-of-house in the last recent weeks. And we would love to help you out if you're not familiar with water. It's a little different animal than normal single-family sales or condos. So that's just kind of been our little special niche lately, and it's something that we love and just have a passion for. Have a great day.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. All right. That is all we got. So enter your coming soons if you haven't done so. comingsoon.villagetn.com, and we'll send those out here after lunch today. But we're going to roll right into our roundtable discussion. Super excited about this. Really grateful for you for setting this up. A lot of the brokers were really adamant about making sure that this happened. So thanks to all the brokers too. That was your broker's idea, and some of the agents too. So thank you all. I'm excited about what we're gonna do. So I'll let you roll into that. I'm gonna adjust our AV stuff for a second.
All right. Yeah, thank you for submitting your questions yesterday as well. My favorite one, I think, was, what are the top 3 clueless things that white people say regarding race? And so one of my goals for today is that I avoid saying any of those things. And so I want to introduce our panel today. We are really honored to have several folks, starting off with Yolanda Cox-Bay. Yolanda has been at Village since 2005. And Sam Graham of the East Attic team. Sam, you've been here about 5 years. And also the owner of Pop-Up Staging. That's Village's preferred staging vendor. And Zaya Holmes, come on up. Zaya's on Laura Kirby's team, and she joined Village last year. And then Shantae Pollard. Shantae's also been at Village 2005 or so. So we are pumped to have all you guys join us. So I think, Zaya, you sent on that back tape and maybe, kind of spread out. We kind of keep everybody in the picture. And a couple things, little personal info is in. You may not know I'm a white guy, and I have not experienced much racism in my life. The little bit that I have, my wife is from Iran, and they came over in the late 70s, and in the early 80s when she was in kindergarten, she had the Iran hostage crisis happened. And so growing up in Baton Rouge and then Chattanooga in the South, she got a lot of, her name was weirdly spelled and couldn't pronounce, and your dad's a terrorist and stuff like that. And then we've adopted a Hispanic boy. He is adopted him 13 years ago. He's 14 now. And 14, he looks Hispanic. And the best looking kid in the world, in my opinion. And on most days, he's the best kid in our family. Just awesome. And so we've worried over the last few years, just as the anti-immigration stuff has been going on, like what does that mean for him? But I don't want to compare my like secondhand and small taste of racism to what's going on in the Black Lives Matter movement and then in their experience. It really doesn't compare, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm a little uncomfortable today just because I'm far from an expert on race, and Black Lives Matter hasn't been like a long-term passion, you know? And while our ownership now at Village is more diverse, and our broker team is more diverse in a lot of important ways, it's really not diverse racially. So, like, what are we doing here? Why are we having this, and why am I standing up talking about it, I guess? So certainly don't want to pretend to be something we're not, or to pander to you or our agents of color. And though I'm a little uncomfortable, maybe some of you are too, talking about this, that's probably okay, and we probably need to be stretched a little bit. And so I'm really excited today to just have a chance to listen, chance to understand, and to gain some perspective from these folks. And then also just a chance to hear from some agents that we all really like and respect. So thank you guys for stepping up and being a part of this. Because of kind of what I've just said, I thought it would be better to have a moderator with some experience, like facilitating and moderating. So I've asked a good friend of mine, Roger Johnson. Roger, he has been leading organizational and leadership development for 28 years, both in a nonprofit and corporate environment. He's been engaged in developing leaders and facilitating organizational discussions during critical times of transformation. First and foremost, Roger has the heart of a coach. He works with teams and groups to help them align around a common purpose and thrive as they work together. So, Roger, thanks so much for joining us, and I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Hunter. I'm privileged to be here. This is a pretty critical time in our country, and just before we jump in, I just want to say I'm on a steep learning curve on this topic. This is not something that let's just say this. I thought I was a pretty educated person. I thought I was pretty astute, I understood race in our country pretty well. A lot of experiences I've had, I don't want to go into all, but I had some pretty good experiences, but nothing prepared me for the last 5 years. So 5 years ago, my wife and I brought in a beautiful dark chocolate son into our family. And he's an amazing kid. And it's like I was given a new pair of glasses. It's like someone gave me a decoder ring that I never had. I never saw the things that I see now because I see the world engage him in everyday experiences. I see things like when we go to the grocery store, we go to the mall, we go to restaurants. I see how people react to us when we go to Disneyland. All these things I never saw before. And the most painful thing is what I see, how he engages that, how he notices and he reacts, and he kind of sees how he's treated different than our other biological kids. And so for me, this time in our world right now, so for the last 3 months we've been in lockdown. Now the world's paying attention to some pretty significant things that happen in our country. We've had some pretty significant video evidence of what I would call murder and racism that now people are sitting at home and they have to engage. and they have to ask the question, what do I think about this? So it's a pretty important time, and we get to listen. So my posture in this is really to come and listen. What I've realized is I don't know enough, I don't know as much as I thought I did, and I gotta listen. And so the way that we listen is by not, so Brene Brown has a really good quote, I love Brene Brown, and she says, in order to empathize with someone's experience, we must be willing to believe them as they see it, and not how you imagine their experience to be. So this is an opportunity to do that. And so we're gonna jump into that, we're gonna ask some questions. Thank you all for being willing to take the risk to sit up here and put yourself on notice and speak. Really appreciate it. It's a big risk for you all. So I appreciate you doing that.
Roger, I'm just thinking, just so we can get you in there too in a way.
No one wants to see this. All right.
Just take a seat when I take that.
Okay, so here's how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna ask some questions, and they're gonna respond. We're gonna bump our way around the group. And we've got questions from the village community, so all these questions originated within this organization. And to start off with, we're going to ask a question, same question to everybody, which is, during this time, kind of what's going on in our country right now, how are you feeling, like right now? What's your kind of base feeling that you're having right at this moment? You get to go first.
So how am I feeling right now? I'm feeling as though enough is enough. And unfortunately, it took a George Floyd to have everyone's eyes open, where you have disregard for life, whether it be a person of color, black or brown, that it is acceptable for a police officer to take another person's life and not hold them accountable. And that there is so much unequal justice. You can have the same identical crime of a white person who, if there is a particular case, appeared in front of a judge, same case, same crime, white, black, slap on the wrist for the white guy, jail time for the person that was black. Enough is enough. This dude kneeled on the guy's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And the thing that pisses me off more than anything else, he had his damn hand in his pocket, just chilling on his neck. So enough is enough. And if nobody else can see that, and if you have not turned on your news, read it anywhere, and you just accepted that, self-included, enough is enough. What do you do at this point? You make yourself active. I don't need you calling me saying, Yolanda, I thought about you, whatever. It's appreciated. But now beyond that, I need your action. So you make changes. You have to change the policy. And how do you change the policy? You kick these racist politicians out. And how do you do that? You take your vote to the polls and you vote them out. That's how I feel.
How do I feel? I think that every day it's different. There's ups and downs. I think that there's a lot of amazing changes that we are already seeing, which is exciting and encouraging. I feel that there's days that it's sad and depressing, and you get tired of watching the news, but also you need to watch the news because so much is going on so fast. And it's this whirlwind of emotions, highs and lows every day. It's exciting to see all the positive change. It's also sad that there is need for so much drastic change after so long. So it's just really just ups and downs daily for me.
Kind of going off both of them, I feel more annoyed than anything because I feel like it shouldn't have taken this to finally open everyone's eyes and ears, and that it took to this point to kind of for everyone to realize what's going on when this has been going on for multiple years now, and I just I don't know, I'm thankful for the change, but I also feel like we have a tendency to talk about things for a couple of weeks and then we kind of die off and then we just go back to the same thing of ignoring it or not realizing it, and I hope this time is different.
So same here, just to piggyback off of a little bit of what everyone up here has already said. Yeah, it's like Yolanda said, enough is enough. I mean, Black people have been screaming from the rooftops for years and years and years on years about just to be heard and to be treated equally. And we don't want any handouts. We want equality. You know, we want to be looked at as just the same as my counterparts. I want to feel equal. You know, I think every Black person can attest to that. They just want equality. And I think now that, again, that America is, everybody's attention is on this matter and they're really honing in on it and really paying attention. I think it's up to every individual now to take a look at themselves. Like Roger said, put your glasses on and not just look straight ahead, but maybe putting those glasses on and really evaluating yourself will give you an opportunity to do a total 360. It'll make you get a total clear picture of not just the things you see in front of you, but maybe it'll open up your eyes to everything and help you better understand where Black people are coming from or have been coming from or been trying to say for so many years. And I think now that, you know, I'm ready to see action and not just words, and maybe now that, you know, I don't think this topic now, you know, I guess from the wake of George Floyd incident is going anywhere anytime soon, and I hope it doesn't. I'm glad that it won't. And so now I'm just ready to talk about the change, hold people accountable, and what are the action steps we take to make that change. And I think everybody needs to look at themselves to say, what can I do to change?
Great, thank you all. So now we're going to jump into some specific questions. So Zaya, you first. What's the worst experience that you've ever had?
I wouldn't call it worse. It's just, like I said, more of just annoyed and like kind of ignorant experience. I've always had experienced implicit biases. Growing up, I'm from a very small town. I've always had majority white friends, and I would always get the comments, Zaya, you don't act Black. I act more Black than you. You're pretty for a Black girl, and I would just be like, what? And it just like, and then I would sit there and argue with someone saying, how are you gonna tell me I'm not Black? And they would sit there and argue like, well, I act more Black than you, and I'm like, well, you just have this stereotype in your head that just because I'm Black, I'm not educated, I talk illiterate or whatever, and that's just not the case. And I think that people need to realize their implicit biases, and it's more of don't judge a book by its cover or the stuff you see in social media that depicts these stereotypes. And yeah, it's just
Thank you. All right, Yolanda, why does it make you mad when people say all lives matter?
It makes me mad when someone says all lives matter, because it's not that they don't matter, but until you recognize that a person of color's life matters just the same, then you are basically diluting the issue at hand. It's not a matter of, and that's the thing, people just take a little piece of something and try to nitpick on it and try to dilute what the issue is, it's not that all lives matter. That's not the case. You don't have the same struggles, and I'm pointing to you just in general. You don't have the same problem that I or my husband or my son, who is 10, will have throughout his life. My husband, even as a working as a co-op job in Savannah, he gets harassed all the time. He has an Ivy League degree, and he is a manager for a major corporation. Never looks like a person that is that's part of a stereotype, but he gets harassed. He's just driving, and now he jogs, and I fear for him to jog even in our neighborhood. We're the only black person on our block. But hopefully they see us enough walking as a family that they will not harass him. So if you can jog without getting harassed, and my husband can't jog without getting harassed, I don't care about all lives matter right now. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if he can't drive and simply get pulled over for a regular ticket and have to fear that any sudden movement will get him shot or killed, and that he can't come home to his 10-year-old son or his 7-year-old daughter, or to me. We've been married for 10 years, met at undergrad, and if I had to ever receive that call, that's gonna be devastating. So if you know a person of color, think about that I can't do, or we can't do the things that you do on a normal basis. So when you say all lives matter, when we're trying to protest and get equal justice, it's Black Lives Matter. And until that is equal, and you can get the equal justice, then that's the reason it pisses me off.
I just need to piggyback on that question. It wasn't even my question, but I just want to add to that. I can't remember what I was watching, and we were having a dialogue about that very same question. And someone made they made this analogy, and it would be, for people who can't get it, I thought this analogy made it very clear. They said, so you're walking in a neighborhood, and you're in a cul-de-sac of houses, and there's one house that's on fire. Maybe it's in the middle of those houses, Millionaire Street, whatever, but there's only one house that's on fire in that neighborhood. And all these other houses are standing there fine. And, what is the emergency right now at that moment is you want to put that house out first that's on fire to protect all the other houses. So it's not that all lives don't matter, but right now the emergency is Black lives, because those are the ones that are getting killed at an enormous rate every day.
So it's this house, not all houses.
This house, not all houses.
Yeah, I heard that analogy. I thought it was great. It's like, if you call the fire department and they come, what would you say if they start spraying all the houses? Right. You're like, that's dumb.
That's not.
Spray the house that's on fire. Take care of that one first. So great. Sam, how has growing up as a Black man in America shaped you to who you are today?
Try not to say when I talk. I think that I feel that looking around as I'm walking through the halls that my life is remotely similar to my colleagues. I will definitely say that, in today's society, I literally have a fear if I'm being pulled over that this could not go right. There's a solid fear that someone said, no sudden movements or something like that. I pay extra attention to speed limits if I'm especially outside of Davidson County or in a suburb or something like that. I think that although I feel that my life, aside from that, is fairly similar to the ones that I see roaming the halls, I think that my path to get here is very different. I feel that as a kid, society told me what I should be and inadvertently what I should not be or can't be. You know, the movies that I saw as a kid growing up, there was never a black astronaut, or, you know, I remember one movie that there was a black school principal. I remember no movies that there was a black president. You know, and just small things just instilled into you as a kid. You know, I appreciate in my adult life the Barack Obamas and the Trevor Noahs for not being, for not listening to the ones that told them no, and to show, you know, anyone that anything is possible. But as a kid, you know, that was not as common, and it was not in my face. I noticed a couple things that stood out to me in my life, and it was just small things. When I was, I don't know, 22 or something, an adult, my mom and I were in the car, and this bartending commercial came on, and I said to my mom, like, oh, I've always wanted to be a bartender. And she said to me, that she said the most simple thing, and it was profound to me for whatever reason. She said, well, just do it, just call him. And I realized then that no one told me that I couldn't be a bartender, but just in my mind, that was just sincere, because I guess I didn't see me, I don't know. Another situation, a friend was going snowboarding, and I always wanted to go snowboarding. And no one ever told me that I couldn't, but I didn't see any black snowboarders. And, you know, things like that, just for whatever reason, you know, society told me that I shouldn't do that. Society told me that I should, you know, be a drug dealer. I should be in jail. I should be dead by a certain age. And the small things that, whereas 90% of the movies show, you know, a black or a white man or a white woman, you know, doing whatever, have all of these major roles that you know, just as a kid I didn't have. So luckily, you know, things have changed, and I've been able to do, you know, the things that I somehow broke out of that mental block that maybe I created for myself, maybe the world created for me, who knows. But you know, it's saddening that is a reality, and luckily that's changing, you know, as we progress and things like that. But it definitely molds you and can limit you being a black person.
All right, Shantae, what bothers you the most, and what would you like to get a clear understanding about?
There's several things that bother me, but I think one of the questions that I would like to ask, you know, my white friends and just white people in general, is what makes, you know, what are you scared of? Like, why are you so intimidated by someone of color, specifically a black male? I would love, that's frustrating to me. Like, I want to understand that, like, because I think a lot of things that happen are centered around that question that needs to be answered. Like, what are you scared of? What intimidates you about a person of color or a black man of color? And I don't know if that's for me to answer. That's the question I want to know.
I think that I love that question, because I love the idea of you know, and this is just coming from you, but from the community of African American community, it's kind of a sense of like, what's the deal? Like, why or what's the deal? Like, what's intimidating, or what's the issue? And the question that brings to our mind, I think something that we as white people need to kind of think about in our head and go, what's going on, and have some real, do some real reflection on that. That I'm pretty sure that there's not a lot of reflection going on about that. So that's a great question.
I want to add to that.
Yep.
Because that is a true statement. And again, just going back to my husband, you're not going to see him just dressed a particular way to fit or to bring people's mind to ease or whatever. I mean, he's just going to be in, maybe a hoodie, or he may be in gym shorts if he's running around. But if he approaches you in the grocery store, I mean, are you going to feel intimidated? Or if you see him walking down the street, are you going to move to the other side of the sidewalk or clutch your purse? I don't know if many of you have read or heard about Jane Elliott, where she did the brown eyes, blue eyes study, where she separated the class by their brown eyes and their blue eyes and had them, one group was inferior and one group was superior than the others, and forced them into a situation where they had to, where she treated them a certain way. So if you were superior, you got to have longer time at recess, or you got to come into the classroom first, or whatever that is. And when they switched back and the next group was the superior group, they ended the test early because they didn't want to now treat that new inferior group any less than what they were feeling. But then the other thing that she did in one of her lectures is she asked a class or a room full of white people to stand up if they would trade places with a black person. And no one stood up. She said, well, I don't think you guys heard me. If you are willing to trade places with a person of color, whether it be for a day, would, please stand up. And no one stood up. So think about that. If you have these implicit biases, my urge is for you to change. Whether we are here together at Village, whether you sit next to me or talk to me because you tolerate me, I don't know, because I don't talk to everyone or you don't talk to me. But everyone, we have to change, and it starts here, and I'm so appreciative, even though I didn't want to do all the talking and I wanted this to be more of an open discussion, including the audience that's here or including the people that are online, because I don't know, unfortunately, the heart of my counterparts here at Village even. So you may sit next to me and talk to me, but I don't know your heart. I don't know if you're the one also judging me and or my husband or my family or anyone else that is a person of color. So the ask is to you is, would you trade places with another person of color? Will you cross the street when you see my husband? Or will you be another Karen that makes a case out of another, or make a false 911 call because you're scared of a person in the park? So the question is also on you, what are you going to do to change and end racism?
I just want to piggyback on one thing about what you said. And I wish we could, if there was time for this, but I don't know if anyone has listened to or familiar with Emmanuel Echo, I can't never pronounce his name right, but he used to be used to play in the NFL. And whenever you have time, when you leave here today, or it's just in your spare time, look him up and follow his page. He's doing a series of talks, and it's called An Uncomfortable Conversation with a Black Man. It is incredible. I just wanted to throw that nugget in there for anyone who truly is trying to understand and educate themselves and help to understand life from Black's perspective. It's really enlightening, and it's an awesome follow. So add that. But to add on to what Yolanda said, or to your question, I think it's time. I think for white people to have an uncomfortable conversation about racism with white people, and that's what it is.
Yes. Can I say something real quick? To answer your last answer, you kind of ended with maybe it's something I need to answer. And I think we should all drive us home. It's not your responsibility to have to answer that question. You should never have to think about answering that question. I don't have to answer that same question for white male. So you should never have to be responsible for that. That's something that the white community as a whole, we have to answer on your behalf.
Oh, it's not. It's just something to plant a seed for you to go home and to think about. And like Shantae said, it's not for us to change your minds, but it is something that's thrown out there for you to open your eyes. So hopefully it's not just the George Floyd that just opened your eyes. I mean, that is the straw that broke the camel's back like 10 times, a million times over. But it is now just a seed. You are absolutely right. I'm not up here and did not agree to be up here to change your mind or about anything, but it is for you to go back home to think about it and or like you said, have the conversation amongst yourselves, because we're not the ones that need to have our minds changed. We're the ones that's living it every day. It's for you all to wake up. You all meaning in general.
Yeah, so I'm just going to steal a couple minutes here on this topic. I think this is one of the frustrations I hear from my African American friends is that they get barraged or they get questioned, like they want to be educated. Like, so white people go to African Americans, they want to be educated. And I think the frustration is you know, you can pick up books, I can pick up books, we can read history, we can do some things to educate ourselves about the issue of race in America. And so so we need to do that. We need to figure out what's wrong with the pair of glasses that we have, or what's incomplete about the pair of glasses that we're looking through, and begin to get educated, and not just expect that it's going to be the African American community that struggles on their own. I think so. Okay, next question, Zaya. What's the most critical change that we must make to face the future effectively?
I think the most critical change, or just even change at all, is I used to be okay with people saying, oh, I'm colorblind, I don't see color. But I think over the course of the last several weeks and even months, I've realized that I think it is important to see color and to realize everyone's differences and uniquenesses, and just not making this a topic of trend, and to continue to practice this as a lifestyle. And once we practice it as our everyday life and lifestyle, then I think that is when we'll get the ball rolling. And from what I've seen over the course of several weeks, and people are still talking about it, I'm hopeful and that we are on the right track of change.
Sam, what have you seen in the last month that gives you hope, that scares you, that feels like will never change?
I think that in the last month there's been some amazing things that have come from this. One of the biggest that I've seen was NASCAR banning the Confederate flag. That, to me, that came out of nowhere, and I was just blown away by that. So it's nice to see that, especially somewhere that I didn't even expect. Yesterday I saw that there's one black NASCAR driver. He's really been making a stance, which I think is phenomenal, especially obviously being a minority, but being an intense minority in his field. Yesterday I saw that he was in Alabama and someone put a noose in his locker room. For me, even as a kid, seeing a noose like that hurts. That one symbol sets me back. So as amazing as it is to see that this giant leap forward, there's always someone else pulling you back. So that kind of a two-parter in that question, great things are changing, but still, we're always reminded that we're different in some sort of way. We're always reminded to feel different, or that we should be different, I'll say that. I hope that things continue to move forward and drastic strides continue to be made. I've had a few friends tell me that they want to support, but they don't know how, and which is an interesting situation to be in, I guess. I saw this story of this black man who just moved to this neighborhood. There was his neighbor, an older white man, and he kept trying to speak to the neighbor. The older white man never really, responded, or for whatever reason. And the black man kind of stopped trying after a certain time. He said, the black man says he went outside one day and saw these little rabbit statues that he's always had in the yard, the white man's yard. He said that one of those statues was painted black. One of the little rabbits was suddenly painted black. This is during all this going on. And so he went over to the man's house. He's like, hey, I want to say hi. I noticed this, what is it? And the white man says, an older white man, he's like, yeah, I don't really like everything that's going on. I didn't know how to, support, but I just wanted to show my support for the Black lives. So he painted his little rabbit. But the small things like that really, touch my heart, and I think it's so amazing. But again, I'm very excited to see. I think I saw in Webster, they literally changed the definition of the word racist or racism. Things like that just really blow my mind, and it's so great to see. I'll see, obviously there's protests going on everywhere, but sometimes I'll see a photo of one little kid or one old, white lady with their single sign in some small town or something like that, which is absolutely amazing. So it's great to see positive things changing. It's sad to see things that are also trying to push back and to set back. But I have hope and optimism, and it's been a long struggle. It's going to continue to be a long struggle, but I am glad that even things like this, that things are being talked about, are being addressed, from the public eyes.
I think it was interesting that I was reading that, and I'm not a NASCAR fan, but I was reading that article this morning, and Yolanda, you talked about, don't just say, I'm thinking about you, but how do you show that with action? And I thought it was, and again, I guess it's in its own NASCAR way, as horrific as that was, that could have just been a news headline of this happened and gosh, isn't it bad, right? But everybody was horrified, and they said, no, we're not tolerating this. And every other driver, I think, from what I could read, said, we're making a stand. And they all got out there and they all walked and pushed him up and said, you're starting the race. They bubbled Wallace, and put him in front of the race and said, we're leading with this guy because we want to follow this guy, because we don't just want to say what was done was wrong. We want to show. And I thought it was, it's interesting, and everybody has their different ways of doing it, but don't be afraid to take a stand and show more than just say.
Exactly. You have a lot of corporations that are standing up right now to say that Black Lives Matter, that they support it, but now we need that next step. So what about the Black Lives Matter are you going to help to again collectively commit to end racism? So again, it's changing those policies and voting those politicians out, being the voice to get policies in place that end systemic racism and promote equality. Because when we talk about the systemic racism, we're talking about years and years and years of just inequality, whether it be economically, whether it be economics, whether it be monies or funding. When they say defund the police, they're not talking or saying that we don't need police. Some of that budget that is given to them needs to be allocated elsewhere. Why is there so much money? I'm not gonna talk long on that, but that whole subject or that whole word is now taken out of context. It's not even the intent of what that means. It basically means that we need monies sent into neighborhoods that need equality, whether it be schools, whether it be social reform, whether it be the justice system, things that promote so that everyone can feel as though they have a chance in this world to matter or to be equal. So there's so many things on that, but back to corporations saying that they support Black Lives Matter, it's now what are you gonna do? So don't make it, a fad, as you said before. This needs to be long-term because it does have a problem of repeating itself.
So there's a couple kind of, I would say, jargonish terms or kind of hot button terms that people that are thrown around that may need a definition or may need some clarity. Right? So a couple of those are systematic racism and then white privilege. What do those mean to you? And can you enlighten us on how we should think about those?
Well, when I hear the word white privilege or what have you, we pretty much talked about that. I mean, it was woven into the other answers that we've been given or that we gave earlier. It's that you basically, your way of life is just different than a person that's black. Again, you can go jogging down your neighborhood and not feel threatened that someone thinks that you fit the description of someone that just burglarized a neighbor's house. So, white privilege is just basically just that. You have privileges that black people don't have. I mean, you can have other people speak on that. I don't want to take all the time, but that's basically it. You can go into a bank and get a loan without having to face any type of discrimination. You can live in any neighborhood that you want without being faced with discrimination, and whether it be all this historic things that have happened in the industry of real estate itself, white flight, redlining, all of that, predatory lending, any of that. Like how many of the people that have developments, how many of those are black-owned vendors? Minority-owned businesses is not the same as black-owned businesses, because you can be a minority just because a white female owns the company. That's a minority-owned business, but how many of those are black-owned businesses? Are you guys involved in them? Even when the tornado came, and I'm sorry to say, how many people went to East Nashville versus over in 37208? I went to 37208 and helped them because that's where people of color were. But there were a lot of people out there, but I just didn't know of anybody from Village that went over there. Most of the conversation was going over to East Nashville. So, I mean, we can talk about that forever. Your privileges are not the same as white privileges. Like the actress who paid her way to have her daughter get into college, whereas another lady used a different address to get her daughter into a better school. She gets jail time. The actress gets a slap on the wrist or probation. White privilege. We can go on and on, but that's white privilege.
So, yeah. I saw a video. It was a young white girl. She was 25 or so, and she was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and she purposely wore a black hoodie. She put her hood on. She all black, and she went to a new construction neighborhood and was just walking through these random homes that were still in the process of being built. No one stopped her. She purposely did this to see if someone would stop her, and no one did. You could, although she had all this on, you could still tell that it was a white female. And she's blatantly saying, like, no one is stopping me. There's a person walking, here comes a person, let's watch them. And they look at her and keep going, She multiple houses. The last house literally had a fence, like a tall privacy fence that she climbed as someone was walking by and is clearly breaking into this house, and not one person stopped her. And that, had I done that, it would have been very different, which is sad to say. And then who knows what the outcome would have been. What's that?
The outcome of the runout. Just looking at the construction.
Sure. Sure.
All right, Shantae, what specific action steps do you think can or should be taken on the part of white individuals when they witness racial discrimination?
So, to me, that goes along with what I was saying earlier in terms of white people having an uncomfortable conversation with other white people in regards to racism. So I think it's one thing to be racist, But I think what the focus should be is anti-racism. Because if you witness, and I guess to answer your question, Director, what would you do? Like, what is your action when you blatantly witness something or someone being discriminated against, or see just anything you see that's being done to someone that's not right? I mean, do you take action right then at that moment? I think you have to call that out right then when you see it, when it happens. That's, to me, being anti-racist, not being afraid. You know, if I'm with my colleague, you with your colleagues, or you with your parents, or your brother, sister, aunt, uncle, anybody that you know may not have the same views that you have in regards to race, but you witness something blatant right there, and you don't speak to it at that moment when it happens, not when you all get back home and you say, hey, that was wrong, you shouldn't have done that to so-and-so, this is how this should have happened. It needs to be called out like right then when it happens, because I think the bigger effect of it happening that way is I can speak to you about it. I can witness it and speak to you about how wrong that was all day long, but I don't think it would have a big of effect as if I'm just using this example, you pointing that out to your brother right then and there. He's going to be more open to listen to you and hear where you're coming from when you do that and you call it out when it happens. And I think that needs to continue to happen. And I think the more that happens, the better we'll be able to get closer to this change that we're looking for.
I think of the George Floyd case, there were 4 cops. Only one of them had their knee on him, whereas there were 3 others that could have easily stepped in and said something. They could have prevented, something, but nothing was said. So I think that kind of relates to being, anti-racist, or, again, it would have meant more if someone right there involved would have stepped in and said, this is wrong, this needs to stop. So I encourage, everyone, if you see something wrong, see something, say something.
Then there's backlash on that. But then there's backlash on that, even in that example where I would like to think that if they take an oath or they accept that position to serve and protect, that they will make sure that that they are not going to do any harm to others. Where you have a case where the black female cop 2 years ago, she stopped someone from, abusing their power. And what happened to her? She got fired and she lost her pension. So how does that make another person want to, even though we know that they should do that, what makes them want to do that? Because they go by this code within the police force. And then for those that I understand that if they were there for that George Floyd incident, that they were being threatened by the police that if you do, we're going to either pepper spray you or do whatever. So an innocent bystander too, I'm sure there were people of color that if they tried to intervene, they were threatened as well. So there's that instance where you want to do right. In that case, I want everyone to do the right thing, but in that case, even that fellow policewoman, retaliation. In a negative sense, she lost her job, and I'm afraid she gets it back, and she gets a pension back, and she sues the hell out of them.
I think she got punched in the face too. She got physically hit by one of the cops.
So this is a real estate company, and so you guys are real estate professionals. General question, and what are some of the things that you notice or see in the real estate industry that you think probably need to be paid attention to within this topic? Is there specific things that you see or witness, or how you get treated, or systemic things that you see? Anything that you think as a real estate professional needs to be part of the conversation?
I feel like you already kind of spoke to that. I was trying
to let others, but okay. Affordable housing is one. More education for those that need it so that they will know what their power is so that they can steer away from predatory lending. And for those that come knocking on their door, offering them less than what their property is worth. You have those developers that will knock on these people of color's home, whether they be elderly or just not educated in the sense of what their property is worth, offer them less than what it's worth, and then you throw one of those little skinnies on there, and then you start charging $400,000 or $500,000 on that. So that's one, because I'm not going to do it. If I have a client that wants me, I'm not doing that, because that's my grandmother or my aunt or uncle that you are sending them out. So now you give them this measly check, and what are they going to do with it? Because they can't afford to go anywhere else. They can't afford to stay in Nashville because there's no affordable housing. And then too, just like I said, for all the developments that are going on in Village, again, how many are you using Black-owned vendors? There are plenty. And I guarantee you that you can look at your list and you're not doing it. And again, minority-owned is not the same as Black-owned, because minority-owned, you can be a white female. And again, just educating them and then there's gentrification. So you didn't want to be in that neighborhood before, but now you come into the neighborhood, or just like the Kroger that's over there in Hope Gardens. My husband lived over there before we got married. The grocery store sucked. He complained about not having quality food there. So now what happens? You have Germantown that has been gentrified, and the grocery store now has fresh fruits and vegetables and everything. So again, white privilege.
I agree. I think I'm personally big on education. I think that knowledge truly is power. Before real estate, I was in banking, and I had a woman come to me, and she was coming to pay her monthly car note like she did every single month. And one day she just randomly asked me, she was like, "Oh, what is the interest?" And I told her, 4% or whatever her interest rate was, and I thought that's what she was asking me. But her question was, and this is a 55-year-old woman, she was, an adult, her question was, what is the definition of interest? What does that mean? And that broke my heart that she had no idea that she'd even been paying interest or what her interest rate or just knew nothing about it. And she'd been coming to pay her car note for years, and luckily she had like a reasonable interest rate, but what if it was 15% and she had no idea or something of that sort. So I truly think that education needs to be amped up. I think that really some people don't know that they can even buy a house when they just assume that, like I did as a kid, that's for those people or something of that sort. So I'm pro advocate for education.
All right, well, we are out of time. So thank you all very much for sharing your experience, your lives, your perspective. Really appreciate that. I just want to say, as a white man, that this is not this kind of fight for justice or fight for the sense that Black Lives Matter is a cry of frustration over years and years and years. It's not something that's just kind of over the last 2 months, like, oh, we have a problem. So I would say it's on us to ask really good questions about things that happen in our society, and I'll just give you a couple of examples. Live in Williamson County. In Williamson County, one of our high schools, their mascot is the Rebels. A lot of white people go like, well, that's heritage. Think about that for a minute. What's that communicate to any person of color who would go to that school or play against that school? The ironic thing is that the Rebels lost, so it's a bunch of losers. But there's still white people who are fighting to keep that as they want to be the Franklin Rebels. Really interesting. Other thing is that on the Williamson County flag, or symbol, there's a Confederate flag draped over a cannon. what does that communicate to the people of color who live anywhere near us? It's just a symbol or a sign like, you know what, here's what happens, and here's what you need to remember. You're never going to be equal to us. We run this world. Those kind of symbols are really important. So symbolism is critical. And you know what's going to change that? It's not going to be a bunch of African Americans who stand up and chant. It's going to be white people who say, enough is enough. We're going to be anti-racist. And don't just like things on Facebook. Like, actually go and do something. Let your voice be heard. Because this stuff's got to change. It's got to change for our brothers and sisters who are non-white in our country. And so, just a couple plugs here from my perspective in terms of things that we need to pay attention to as a white community. That we have white privilege, we have power, we have voice. We need to use it. So, thanks, Hunter.
Awesome. And we have a responsibility to educate ourselves on this. So, but this was helpful. And so I really appreciate you guys. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in and being here. And let's do it again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all very much.